Hello, thanks to the folks who are just hopping on. We're going to wait a few more minutes and we will start to kick things off. And hello to everyone hopping on. Let's just give it one more minute and we'll get the show started. All right. Thank you, everyone who has joined us today. This is Paperless Shop. Ditch the paper process and get your shop on a digital workflow. Today's webinar is being presented by Andrew Summerville and Steve King, Evolve's own prefabrication experts. As a reminder, this webinar is being recorded and we will forward the recording to all registrants. You can also find all of our webinar recordings on the Evolve YouTube channel. If you have any questions, please submit them using the Q&A function in your Zoom toolbar, and we may have time at the end of the session to take a few questions. And with that, I'm going to let Andrew Summerville kick things off.
Thanks, Marina. A little bit about me. We're going to be super informal today, but my background is mostly on the BIM side, design engineering stuff. And since coming over here to Evolve, moved into a product manager role and a lot of shop onboarding and everything like that. So that's why Steve and I wanted to have this webinar today. It's just we see so many different workflows, and we want to talk a little bit about potentially moving from paper-based to digital. So Steve, if you want to give a little bit about your background, and we'll jump right in.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Good to be with you guys. Yeah, my name's Steve King. For those of you that don't know me, I'm a product manager for our cloud-based products. I came here about 3 years ago, but spent my entire career from graduating high school in the electrical field, with basically the last 15 years or so focused entirely on design to fabrication processes and creation and running and building out fab facilities. So that's been my my main experience to date. So good to be with you guys to talk about this subject today, and let's get it going.
Let's do it. And I'm gonna make a dad joke here. It's Halloween, so we're gonna do a little trick or treat. Make you guys look at me and Steve. So that's why we turned our cameras on. Let's go back a little bit. Here we go. Why did we want to have this webinar? We talked to so many customers, and Steve's going to echo this too. As we talked to so many customers about just the challenges they face in having a paper-based shop. We've been to so many shops. There's a story that we have that we tell internally about going to a shop and just the wind comes through. They've got all the doors and windows open, and the wind comes through and it's blowing drawings around, blowing Post-it notes, because we see everything from Post-it notes to whiteboards to emails, stuff like that. And so we're blowing drawings around and we're having to reprint more drawings. And that kind of sparked us to say, what can we do here as far as a webinar to just talk about a little bit? So that's kind of why we're here today. Wanted to talk a little bit about bad data. When we talk about a paper-based shop, you get into drawings, reprinting drawings, and are they the correct drawings? And you can see some of these statistics here. I didn't get this, but Autodesk has them. But when you start talking about bad data from drawings or a bad model, only 36% of firms have even a process to identify bad data. 41% of contractors agree that non-standardized data leads to, obviously inconsistent results. So, and Steve, you can probably echo that. My background is from the BIM side, and I don't know how many times I got yelled at for sending bad drawings over to a shop, and then those couldn't get installed. And then think about how much time and rework that is. 14% it says, which is almost $90 billion globally. And Steve, you probably could go for a long time about how many times you got bad drawings in your shop.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your current state? Marina's got a poll that we're going to throw up right here, and I can't see that, Marina, so you just read out the results. But we see so many customers that are fully paper, fully automated, and somewhere in between. I'm going to guess that's where most of you guys are. But what is your current state if you want to jump? None still on paper, mostly using digital, fully automated. That's pretty good. 33%. Nice. Okay.
Yeah,
And then we talk about, go ahead, Marina.
Oh yeah, we got some answers rolling in here, and looks like things are pretty even between still fully on paper, mostly using a digital process, and then we got one person who says they're fully automated already.
There we go. And when we talk about manual, maybe we talk about paper and printing drawings. We talk about Post-its and whiteboards, emails that we've got to send in, and somebody's got to update those all the time. And then you're kind of automated. There's some PM dashboards, and then fully automated, like our product of Shop, or then there's some competitors out there. But that's interesting. We've got 3 remarks, and they're all split, equally. So let's talk about just some of the struggles, because this is where Steve's really going to come in and share his knowledge with us. But you talk about paper-based struggles. Why would you want to go to something digital? But, Steve's going to echo this here in a minute, but you're looking at lost emails, lost drawings, lost Post-its. Like I said, that example of that shop with the wind coming in and blowing everything around, that equals lost data, and that equals lost time, right? Which Steve's going to say more money. So here's my first question for Steve. What were some of your main struggles when you were paper-based in your shop?
Yeah, well, there were a lot of struggles around that, but when I think back, I guess for me there was probably 2 main pain points that come to mind on that. With the first being the overhead costs to prepare those build packages, right? Just the pure cost in doing that. And then I think the second one probably for me would have been around document control. So those 2 things. So when you think about overhead costs, to prepare these build packages, we were putting together complete build packages, which consists of, work order, shop travelers, and small format printing. 11 by 17 generally is what we printed there. And so if you look at the average cost of building that one build package for one particular work order, right? Let's just say the average in there is 6 sheets, 1 8.5 by 11 and 5 11 by 17 spool sheets or something like that. You're talking about 80 cents for the paper, right? The printed paper in color. We printed a lot in color. Obviously, I think most of the guys are printing things in color. If you printed large format, 24 by 36 or larger, you're talking about maybe $15 worth of drawings and color drawings, the bigger ones. So we stuck with small format printing in 1117, right? So we were at call it $1 for the paper that's in there, and then you got the cost of binding all that together, right, and actually delivering that out to the shop. So if you think about it in those terms, okay, maybe it took us probably around a half an hour to have somebody build out this build package. Once we had the spool drawings from the design team, we'd print all those things out, create a work order, enter it into some spreadsheet, and then we would staple that build package together and go down and put it into production board. And so if you're at a half an hour for that build package cost, you're at $30, say, for cost of labor there. So you're like $31 a build package, right? At the end of the day, this is small format printing. So we had to produce 5 build packages per day to keep our shop going at an equal pace, right? Now you're talking about 35,000 square foot fab shop with 25 guys in it, something like that was where we were at. So we had to produce at least 5 build packages a day. So when you look at that, you say, okay, 253 working days times 5 packages a day, $31 a piece. You're talking about 39K, right? And so that's all small format printing. Throw in some large format printing, you're talking about $45,000 a year. Print it all large format, you got a real cost on your hands. You're up 57, 60,000. In delivering those documents to the fab shop, right? There's not a lot of value in that. You've got to get them there some way or another, but it's costing me anywhere between 39 and 60 grand, right? And so I'm not a fan of that overhead cost tied to a paper-based process, right? And that's what it was for us. And you can argue about what the cost is, but each organization will be different. We've had some customers tell us, a mechanical contractor recently said their cost was $95,000 a year. I'm not going to spend $95,000 a year to print paper. And so that's kind of where I fell on that thing there. So did not like the overhead cost, right? So there's waste there. And then, the document control part of it is problematic, right? I mean, you're revising documents, causes issues, no matter how you revise them, right? Especially if you didn't pull those drawings back. So you got those previous versions of the drawings in your fab shop. If those aren't pulled out and thrown away or treated properly, you got problems there. I don't know about, I guess taking up space on the production tables would be a problem for me. You found these drawings everywhere, all over the shop, right? They come out in a build package. They don't stay in the package very long. They get ripped up and taken out of the package, and this guy grabs a sheet and that guy grabs a sheet. Pretty soon that package is disseminated across all the work cells. You don't know where the hell anything is. So, we had wasted time looking for drawings, and shop floor operators reviewing. One of the things that really drove me nuts about that process was that, you had shop floor operators on the floor that are looking at drawings that have absolutely nothing to do with them, right? Like, why are you looking at this drawing? There's no reason to look at it. You're cutting some strut here and you got to make 500 cuts today. Like, it doesn't matter what this thing's going to be turned into when it gets assembled. And so you just got people looking at things that they really don't need to know. And so, reprinting those documents, like you say, sometimes they get lost, sometimes they get ripped up, whatever. You gotta manage this stuff. So I wasn't happy with that for production reasons, right? The document control, it's the same problems we all face in the field, right? Bad documents in the field is bad installation, and it's just not good all the way around. And it is not ideal for a manufacturing facility. And so I considered my shop to be a manufacturing facility, not a job site in a building, right? So that's kind of where I fell down on those paper-based struggles as I think about it. Now you're going back 5 or 6 years on me, maybe more, since I actually was running a large operation like that. But these are some of the challenges I think our customers on this call would face as well. So,
and that you just said something too that makes me think, like, and that's even before change management. If a drawing somehow gets revised, work order change or something like need by date, that's before you get into any of that. So yeah. What was the main factor when you're running your shop that drove you to try and say, we got to change something? Just, was it trying to keep up with overhead or what?
No, I think, running a fab facility is not easy, as we all know in this call. has a ton of challenges. And especially that shop manager, right? He's got the toughest job everybody out there. He's getting pulled in all kinds of directions from the project management team out, pulling on him one way and the field team pulling him on the other. So it's a difficult thing. So I have a lot of understanding of that and sympathy for that guy. So I want to make that easier, right? But we were always looking for. Here's the thing: was like we're back then, 20 years ago when I first started, or 25 years ago, started fabrication. I'm dating myself now, but I mean, nobody was doing it. So we had to create these things out of whole cloth, right? We had to figure this out as we go. And, but one of the things that I've always done, that I've always looked for is, kind of three things that I think about: incremental, continuous improvement. And I say incremental because that's what I mean. Like you have to incrementally improve your fabrication operation. You can't just improve it overnight because there's so much to do. But and part of that incremental improvement would have been to eliminate the paper-based process completely, right? It is not a lean process. It's waste. It's got a lot of problems with it. Our ownership, our executive teams, they wanted us to scale. They want more from fabrication every day. They want more and more and more. We need to do more with less. Our general trades contractors want the projects finished faster than we've ever completed them before. So there's all these demands on you, and you just simply can't scale that well enough and gain the efficiencies out of a paper-based system. So I got to a realization at some point that, the paper-based process would have to go. Now, back at that time, I didn't have a lot of options, right? There wasn't a lot of systems for us to be able to handle that, but, we knew that had to go, among other things. So that's kind of what was driving me. Continuous improvement, directives down from upper management is absolutely needed to be able to pull some of these things off, right?
Okay, I got you. And then saying that, Steve, you can talk a little bit about your goals, but the reason we wanted to have, again, another reason we want to have this webinar is really just to put things on your radar. We're not going to show you a ton of our shop stuff today. We see a need because of all the customers that we talk to, and so we want to just take a lot of Steve's experience, my minimal experience, and try and put some things on your radar so you can start thinking about if you're looking to going digital in your shop. And a few of those, you can see them on the screen: just efficiency, productivity. Like Steve was talking about with the drawings, if we're going to be able to print those and just give a guy one drawing at his workstation and not have to reprint stuff, we can put it maybe on a laptop or an iPad or something like that. He can see his one drawing. Some communication, right? We don't want to have to, if there's some manual things in our shop, we don't have to be sending emails or phone calls back and forth. Maybe some real-time tracking so we can see where our work orders are at, because again, cuts down on some communication. And then quality control and risk management, which goes into what Steve and I were talking about earlier with some of this change management stuff. If work requests or work orders have their dates changed or drawings change, you want to be able to eliminate that stuff with any system that you move to. So these are our goals right here. Steve, any comment on any of these?
No, yeah, I mean, number one is number one for me, right? Efficiency and productivity, man. We're trying to create a manufacturing facility that is efficient and productive, right? I mean, that's just where we're going. That's what we need to do.
That's your big one. So then here where we're going with this, though, with moving towards digital, you're going to face some challenges, and this is where Steve's going to really be able to help you guys. Some common challenges. Just are you even aware? Like Steve said earlier, and he's one of these weirdos where he's always trying to get better. Are you even aware that your shop are you even aware that your shop has a problem, or these things like how much does it cost just for us to print these build packages? One we see every so often is technology adoption. Hey, why are we going to bring in some new software or any process really? Because we're fine with what we have. And then the cost. There's always a cost associated with it, even if it's a software, even if it's free, there's a cost to it of learning it. But if it's not, how much is it going to cost? Troubleshooting and support. the software that you end up deciding. Is it easy to use? Are you going to get some support and have people help you set it up? And this is where Steve's going to come in. Are there any tips, Steve, that you want to kind of tell them when you're looking for switching over to digital or getting rid of paper? Anything that pops up into your head, any red flags?
I mean, it would just really, doing the due diligence that's required to find the right solution, like, there's options now. Like I said, 20 years ago, we had a spreadsheet, right? And heck, I had a spreadsheet until I left. We moved it to Smartsheet or something like that, but there wasn't really a lot of options for us. And so that was always a challenge. But I think today, with the technology that we have, and the products that are in the market, there's something for everybody, right? There's a way to get off of this paper-based system and successfully deploy, fully electronic things. And so, whether it's a manufacturing system, there's plenty of those, right? But they're complex and they take a lot to run them. Or it's something like, you could say even, you could say you're somewhat digital if you've got some shared file somewhere out on the cloud, right? Like, I mean, there's just a whole lot of ways to get started in this. But I think the point is, I don't even know if I'm answering your question anymore, but I think the point is just get started, right? Like you cannot grow with a paper-based process, plain and simple. And in my mind, and look, I'm talking about my opinion, my experience, and I'm certainly not saying that you can't succeed, because we were very successful, right? It's not about that though. It's about continuous improvement and getting better. It doesn't mean we didn't do great fabrication, because we did, and we did it with paper, but we could do it better. We could do it faster and more efficient with a digital process. And so I would strive for that, because our primary goal from the executive team was to eliminate waste, right? It's part of a lean processes, and it was, when we find and target waste, we get rid of it. That's just how we become profitable, right?
Yep. So saying that, what are your thoughts about some of the current workflows that we see when we go to shops? Got any thoughts?
Well, I mean, we see, okay, so I guess there's a lot of people that'll have a SharePoint or some cloud-based document sharing, right? File folder structure up on the web somewhere, where those drawings are they're being spooled out of Revit, Bluebeam markups, whatever they are. They're going to a certain folder where the shop teams, and in some cases the field teams, access their drawings right on the cloud. So that's a step in the right direction. However, that shared drive file folder structure has challenges as well, no matter how they're set up. So sometimes we'll see individual drawings, right? Multiple PDF drawings under a work order folder. And in some cases, maybe it's only in a project folder, but some customers will have a project folder, then they'll have work orders underneath them, and then they'll have a whole string of folders for each work order that gets created, and then the drawings are in there for the work order, right? So however you do that, it's a step in the right direction, like you're moving towards some digital process, and you have multiple documents in that folder. Some other ways we see it is we'll see that same folder structure, whatever it is, but there'll be one big, large compiled PDF drawing, right? And you open this thing and it's 35 pages long, and it's the kind of the thought around that would be, well, this drawing set has everything everybody needs. It's an all-in-one, one-stop shop, right? You get this massive PDF that you're gonna use, and sometimes even the field teams will use that for installation. And so, in my experience, I find that's problematic in terms of having one huge, large drawing set, because I'm a fan of only providing the information that's needed, nothing more, nothing less. And so if you provide an installation drawing to the field that has shop fabrication data on it, they're looking at data that they don't need to care about. And so they're wasting time and looking at, hell, I don't know if I could even get my guys to read the notes in the first place. Never mind, 40, all kinds of extra dimensions and markups. And, it just really, I've tried it. I've tried every one of these things too. And, I was looking for a solution, and what works best for one company is not necessarily what works for the others. And so, but that's what we would see, out there. And then obviously if a customer has a full system that can digitize this process, then they wouldn't necessarily have those folder structures that the shop teams are using. But ultimately there's still some folder structure somewhere at some point.
Yep. Yeah. That's what is crazy to me is walking into a shop, or at least the one I thought about when we were preparing for this, is walking into different shops and just seeing work requests on like a whiteboard. And
Yeah.
and your thought is like, who keeps up with this? Do we have to go up here and write it every day? And what happens when somebody like you, the shop foreman, is gone on vacation? Like, how do we even keep up with that? That's what blew my mind a little bit.
Well, my thing, Andrew, was, well, first and foremost on the drawing side of things, like I want to deliver the drawing to the shop floor operator, right? On demand. I don't want my shop floor guy to go out to some folder structure, browse through these drawings, figure out which one he needs to look at, and then finally open it. I want to deliver those drawings on demand. So that's why I don't really love the folder structure, because you can't do that. Somebody's got to go out there and find that drawing. But even at a higher level, in my view, drawings have to be connected to the work order in which the fabrication is being delivered, right? The work order is the deliverable. And so the drawings must be associated or mapped to that work order to keep them together and keep them as aligned with each other. And then, one step further in that is, work orders can have many items in them, and that those drawings need to be mapped to those items. And then underneath those items are all the tasks, right? So I think I mentioned earlier that, we use travelers, and I don't know if our audience uses them or they don't, but travelers were basically just a way of routing work through your fab shop in a paper-based process, right? You had a work order that had child routing cards or travelers that go with them, and it sends it to work cell 1, work cell 2, work cell 3, and the thing meets up at work cell 4, and then they assemble it, right? That's how the travelers, we routed things through our shop in a paper-based system. Well, our electronic system replaces those travelers with tasks. So you have to map your drawings to be totally effective. I think you have to have your drawings, your digital drawings, mapped and directly associated with the task being performed. And so that's a different thing altogether. And when you think about, like, okay, let's make a trapeze, right? We're going to make this trapeze support, threaded rod support. Everybody on this call makes them, right? So we have to make a trapeze support. It's what we're making, but that has 3 tasks involved with it, right?
Mm.
You got to cut the rod, you got to cut the strut, and then you got to assemble this thing. Well, at the rod cut station, I don't want the assembly drawing there. What do I want there? I want my cut list. The guy at the cutting the rod, all he needs to know is how many cuts he needs to make and how long they got to be. And when he's done with that, where does it go, right? It goes from work cell 1 to work cell 2. At the cut strut station, the guy only is cutting the strut. That's all the information he needs to know. He needs a cut list. And then when you get to the assembly station, that's where the assembly drawing is, where the people that are assembling them, the shop floor operators assembling that trapeze, now have an assembly drawing to put all the component parts together, right? And that keeps them laser focused on the task at hand. They're not reviewing 15 drawings, because those guys will review them in the shop. You give them 20 drawings in a PDF set of drawings out there, they're going to look at all 20 of them. And time is money, right? And so that's just the way I think about it.
Okay. And then saying that, since we talked about this a little bit, we'll go over the slide a little bit. So, and Steve touched on this a little bit. We assess your current workflow. When you want to switch, what can we take out that's not helpful, right? Maybe some drawings, printing out drawings. swap those out with digital. What can we automate as far as emails or communication, putting drawings on a work request. One of the biggest things that we see, and Steve, you might agree on this, is identifying stakeholders. Can we get the right people that are going to be involved with this decision of switching from paper to digital? Are we getting the right people to buy into that? And that includes the shop foreman, whoever's got to pay for this software if we decide to do something like that. And then let's set some clear objectives, whether it's like just replacing one thing or one thing in the process or replacing the whole paper process, right? So I just wanted to go over that one real quick. The next one we have here, there's a really simple slide about the timeline, right? Just how are you going to implement switching from paper to digital? And it's very simple. Pick your software and get it set up. Data migration, and what we mean by that is the current work orders that you have, or in your shop with all those drawings, how are you going to push them into the new software that you pick? Is it going to be time intensive? Right? Is it going to be really hard to learn that process? Number 3 is training. How long is it going to take? Because we have seen softwares out there, whether it's just moving to Excel to capture your work orders. I'm not great at Excel. I know that. And, is that going to take some training time, right? And this is one where we talk about that technology adoption again. You'd go into some shops and guys say, I'm not learning anything new, right? And I know Steve wasn't like that. But then, we have a smooth integration. We've decided on all these things. We've got 1, 2, 3 set up. And now we've got to roll it out to our shop. These are all the things that you got to think about and prepare for. So, Steve, when you got rid of paper, or some of your paper, how hard was it for you to bring everybody along?
Well, I never, at the time I left, we were not fully paper based. I mean, we weren't fully digital at that point.
Right.
So I honestly, though, I didn't see this as a tremendous lift to pull it off. It's more of a mindset just to make it happen, right? Like, you can convert, and I didn't see any need to do a partial conversion or anything like that. To me, and it's just my shop, particularly, and the management people we had around myself and our fab shop managers, like, and I'm not saying that we were the best in the business, but what I am saying is we had capable people. And so pulling this off, to me, was not an issue. We had the people to pull it off. What we didn't have at that time was the platform in which we were going to use. So like I said, we had Excel spreadsheets, and we have some really crazy ones and some stuff like that, right? Like, that's a thing. Contractors, it's the worst program on earth for a contractor because we use it for everything. I should have never made it.
Yep.
So, but we moved towards, a smart sheet solution at the time. That's what we used. But again, I mean, can you get a digital drawing? And what would interest me is what our customers on the call are actually doing when they say, we had one fully implemented. And so I'd be interested to know, if that was down to the task level, or what level of those drawings, where were they? Are they on the item? Are they on the work request or work order or whatever? But, so I never was able to pull it off. I had left at, the contracting space at that time. So, but I didn't see it as a super challenge. I would have spent some serious time doing due diligence on how I was going to achieve this. But it is achievable today. Absolutely. So, if I had to do it again, I would move fully digital from day one.
Yeah. Yep. Perfect. Yeah. And then talk about options for going digital, getting rid of paper. Excel, you're gonna have to do manual updates like this. You see this, I made this the other day. We've seen this hundreds of times. Steve, you probably, you would echo that, with need by dates that need to be updated and push back 2 weeks outside of that for QC, 2 weeks before that to start, that kind of stuff. But where are your drawings going with that? Do you have to put a link in there for your drawings? Do you have to put a folder structure for your drawings? You can see the project management dashboards that are those going to provide drawings and give you updates. Teams, you can use Teams, but there's a lack of integration there with Revit and drawings again. And then, you've got Shop, and then there's some other ones out there where you can host drawings, you can track stuff, you can look at live updates, that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, I
And
mean,
then go ahead, Steve.
just to add, just to add, Andrew, think when we're talking about drawings, I think a lot what we're talking about here is, PDF drawings or something like that, right? But today's world, that's not enough for me, right? Like
Hmm.
I want 3D representation of the fabrication spool, right? Like I want the Revit model. Um, and picture's worth 1,000 words sometimes on that shop floor. And hell, back then we used to build
Sure.
mock-ups. If we were building something in piecework, we had a piecework thing, we had to build 5,000 of these things, whatever it was. We built mock-ups and kept them on the table, as an example of what a perfectly completed unit looks like, right? For QC reasons, for build reasons. And so I want the model too. When we talk about drawings, what I mean is, yeah, okay, I'll look at a PDF, no problem. But I want to see a 3D representation of what was drawn in the Revit model.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad you brought that up because how many times did I build a model in Revit on the BIM side, the VDC side, and think, man, I wish I could get a shop foreman to look at this and review it, or a field guy to look at it and review it, and just have them take a look at it. Like, just make sure it's okay, because you can model a lot of stuff. That doesn't mean it's going to get built like that in your shop.
No, in fact, a lot of times it doesn't get built like that in the shop. Like the modeling process is the process that it is, right? But in reality, you can finish the modeling process to the best of your ability, and it's constructible in your opinion. But it's not always constructible when it gets to the fab shop, right? Things have to change. We built a lot of jigs. We built a lot of tools that helped us build things fast and efficiently. And when you get it out there, you realize that, hey, wait a minute, this split isn't in the right spot. The shipping split's not going to work. It's too heavy. We can't move it. The designers don't always know the field requirements for this thing. They may know it, but they don't always know it, and things happen. And so you have to
Right.
be able you have to shift gears out there on the shop floor, just like we do in the field. And so, you know, when I look at the representation of the model, and we had complex fabrication builds that needed to be done, we reviewed those with our production supervisors before the build ever happened. So we already determined that in a pre-review meeting, and we didn't do it for every work order, but the complex ones we did because we needed to align our team on how this needs to be done, exactly what the requirements are from the design team and the field team, and how are we going to successfully get this done efficiently, on time, and of high quality, right? So like that was the thing for me. We just didn't, if it wasn't quality, it didn't leave my door, period. And so you can't overcome that when you start delivering stuff that's of lesser quality than the field teams think they can build themselves.
Right.
You got a real problem on your hands. So there's just a lot of things involved here. But I would really loved the ability to look at those Revit files or NWG files at that time would have been fantastic.
Yep. So saying that, let's look at this one right here. It's an easy slide. If you're looking to go digital, these are just four of the things that Steve and I thought. Maybe there's more, but to me, the drawing and the model hosting, what we're talking about, automated submission to where you don't have to send to your shop for me. You don't have to send a work request for him to print out those drawings and build a build package like Steve's talking about. Live tracking whenever we submit it, and then maybe some email updates. Is there anything else you can think of, Steve? These are the four that I thought of.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is revolves around the work request itself and the way that gets submitted to the facility. And so, yeah, that's fully out on electronic. And so that's a little different than the drawing piece, but what it is, it's in real time, right? It doesn't require manual updates to a spreadsheet or something like that. Some siloed look, Excel spreadsheets are siloed, even if you share them on a drive or something like that, that you don't know what the latest, it's just problematic. Excel's been great, but I couldn't scale it. I could never get it to where I wanted it to be. So
Okay.
that's got to go too, just like the paper drawings.
That's right. Okay, then the last question we're going to go with, and we're almost done. So since we brought up this topic, it was our idea for the webinar. Are there? We'll use your expertise here. Any suggestions if we've got some viewers that are thinking about going, digital, scrapping the paper process? Do you have any suggestions for them? And are there any hurdles that you'd maybe like to make them aware of?
Well, I mean, from a suggestion is, get started. You got to make the change at some point, right? You're not going to be able to, in my opinion, and it's just my opinion too. It's just, take it for what it's worth, right? I'm just another guy out there doing fabrication like everybody else. But amazingly, across the country, it's not so different, right? Even though we think we are different, but we're really not. When you actually look at what each one of our customers are doing and what we did back in the day, we're all trying to do the same thing. And so, we're fighting the same fight. So, my suggestion is, yeah, I mean, heck, it looks like our viewers are getting started anyway. Only there was maybe a couple that haven't started, and obviously they're considering it because they're on this call. And so, I wouldn't be afraid of it at all. I would get started immediately on figuring out exactly how we're going to do this. Reaching out to peer groups or people that have done it in the past is a good way. Jumping on these calls is a good way for them. I mean, hopefully I provided something of value to somebody on this call, finds, has a takeaway that can help them. Right. And so, yeah, you get started on it and there's a certain level, there's some cost to it. You're going to have to, put, I put monitors in every work cell, right? It's like, I've got large screen monitors and iPad access at the work cell level. And, you digitize each work cell in the shop. And then, you go from there and, retraining of your personnel. Yeah, you have to do all this stuff, but, you're already paying the highest cost possible. Paper-based system. So all you have is money to save and efficiency to gain. So to me, it's a no-brainer. It's okay. Let's go after it because the technology is here today. We can do this. It's not a problem. That's just the way I think about it. So yeah, that's really all I would suggest is just to, make it happen because it's an improvement, right? It's not
Right.
I don't know if anybody can argue that a paper-based system is better. I mean, hell, when you think about the challenges in the field, nobody likes paper out there either.
Mm-mm.
Mhm.
Mm-mm.
And
You're
it
just
looks
getting
like,
started, right? What's that,
yep.
Rita? Go ahead.
Looks like we've got a question from the audience here for you guys. Someone asking, what kind of financial benefits are you seeing from moving to a digital process?
Well, I mean, I could take a stab at that. I mean, financial benefits are one, the cost of the overhead costs that I talked about earlier in this webinar. And for me, that cost fell around 40,000 a year, right? That was the cost of printing paper. So you have that to gain. Now, the cost of digital is not free, right? You need some software or something to do it, but you're going to gain there. And the biggest, setting that money aside, the biggest benefit, in my view, would be the efficiency of the shop itself and the ability for people to do work without being told what to do. And so it drove me crazy when I would walk down to a table and, you got 5 guys standing around, or hell, it wasn't 5 guys, but you got a couple of guys kicking around trying to figure out what's next, waiting for the shop manager to tell them what to do or something like that. To me, there's the money in going to digital is all around efficiency and ability to scale, and do more with less in your fab shop. That I think is the economical gain that you're going to get, and you won't realize it until you actually get into it and do it. But that's what I think about that. I don't know, Andrew, if you got anything to thoughts
No,
about.
you hit it. You hit it. Maybe if you talk about getting accurate drawings, that graphic that we had at the beginning where it's talking about rework and makes $90 billion.
Yeah,
You mess up one assembly from bad drawings. I mean, that's a lot
yeah.
of
I
money.
mean, we didn't talk about this call. We didn't really talk about quality or QA problems. That could be another whole discussion, a whole nother webinar around that topic, I would imagine. But you know, what is the cost of making a mistake when you don't have the right drawing in the shop? Like you just, we've all experienced it, right? Like it's a thing, it's real, it's going to happen to you. I don't care what process you have, it's going to happen to you. And we try to avoid those things because quality was everything to us, and we didn't put it out if it wasn't built right. And if it wasn't built right, I took responsibility for it myself, because it's the way it had to be. And so, you know, I think I would have been better under a digital process. Because if I need to update the drawing, okay, fine. I update the drawing, I send it to every work cell that drawing is present at, and it's updated in real time. Like, I'm not going to go out there and pull the drawing back and do all that stuff. And no, I'm not gonna, I don't want to do that.
All right, that's great.
Yeah,
Thanks so much,
good
Steve, for
question.
answering that.
Good question.
All right, Andrew, Steve, anything else from you guys today?
No, do we have any more questions? That was it.
That was it. I
Cool.
want to say thank you, everyone, for attending this webinar today. I hope that you found the information valuable. Please make sure to follow Evolve on social media, and you can always keep up with upcoming events and webinars by going to evolvemep.com and finding our events page. You can also find our demos and past webinars on the Evolve YouTube channel. As a reminder, this webinar has been recorded, and we will send out the recording in an email to all registrants. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.